Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now our first story comes from Stolen Tuition 2024 and says, would I be the arsehole if I put a lien against my parents' house and sued them for my college tuition? I, 17 female, am graduating high school next month and am set to attend my first choice college with a partial scholarship in the fall. It's an in-state school about an hour away, and because of my dual enrollment credits, I should only be 5 semesters from finishing my bachelor's degree and then going for the master's degree I need for the career I want. 5 years ago, now I've looked up this word and there seems to be several pronunciations about it. I'm going to go for Mum's mum died, leaving behind a college fund for me and my siblings, Kyle, male 25, and Kelsey, female 22. Mum's aunt Teresa was supposed to oversee it, but she died in 2020, and somehow my parents wound up in charge. I don't know all the details because I was 12 when Mormor died and 14 when Aunt Teresa died. I'm not even sure exactly how it was structured or how much there was, except that it was supposed to be enough to cover a significant amount of our expenses, if not everything. Kelsey is a fine arts major and her first year of college was derailed by lockdowns, and she wound up losing an entire year. She was supposed to go back for her final year next fall, just as I am starting college. But last night at our grandpa's birthday dinner, Dad's dad, she announced that she'd been invited to participate in a junior artist in residence study program and was deferring her last year of college. Everyone congratulated her and my grandparents asked about what sort of stipend she was getting. She said there wasn't one, but Mormor's money would cover her living expenses. My uncle said that between me starting college and them covering that, the fund would be empty soon, and would her share be enough to pay for her final year after? That's when my dad said that since I had scholarships, my sister needed it more. I wouldn't be getting any of the money Mormor left for us. Everyone was shocked and started asking questions. But my parents insisted that it was important to support my sister's artistic goals, the way we never were, and that I'd be fine. When my grandparents argued with them, Mum said I could take out loans for what my scholarship didn't cover and live at home to save money. I was in tears and my sister was upset that people weren't happier for her. When my uncle asked if there was even going to be money left for my sister to go back and graduate, my parents said they would take out a loan against the house to cover it. Everyone got into a huge argument and my parents and sister left. My grandparents, an uncle and aunt got to talking and my uncle, who is a lawyer, says he's going to look into it and that we may have to sue them for my share of the college money because he believes they mismanaged it. My grandparents are worried about them mortgaging the house and losing it and suggesting we take out a lien against the house for my tuition money so they can't use it to get a loan to pay for my sister's expenses. Would I be the arsehole if I sued my parents for my college tuition and put a lien against their house like my grandparents suggested? So the top commenter on the back of this one says, this sounds like they horribly mismanaged the money. A fund that was supposed to cover even 50% of 3 college tuitions should have had a healthy 6-figure amount. Not to mention the fine was supposed to be used for tuition, not other programs. During the discovery, your uncle may find out some disturbing truths, but secrets, especially money secrets, always are the worst. Whether you do or don't, your relationship with your parents and sister is likely irreparably damaged. Opie says, yeah, my parents are bad with money. The only reason that we have a house is that Mormor left it to my parents. Same thing for having a decent car. My grandparents were always paying for groceries or other bills, which is why Grandma and Grandpa are so worried about them taking out a loan against the house. My mum is a wedding photographer for pay, but also considers herself a potter. And my dad is a musician who also does carpentry on the side, like set design for the community theatre. They are both artsy types, so it's not surprising they chose Kelsey, the artsy kid, over me. Add in that I was definitely an accident and I'm not artsy, and it's just like, why did I expect anything different? So there was lots of commenters talking to OP on this one saying, you can't just put a lien against the house and that's it sort of thing. OP came in with an update and said, thank you all for the advice. I know you can't just put a lien against the house, but my uncle and grandparents are talking about suing for the money. And since my parents wouldn't have it, putting a lien against the house. They want to move quick before my parents can do any other stupid crap, as my grandpa put it. We all know if my parents spent the money, there is no way we'll be able to pay it back. Neither will my sister. And Grandma basically told me, but at least they won't be able to lose the house. My parents inheriting the house from my mama was the only way they could afford a home. They have never been good with money, so growing up, my grandparents covered a lot of their bills so we could have groceries, and that's probably why Mama left Aunt Teresa in charge of it. They are worried what will happen to my parents if they do take out a loan on the house because none of us believe they'll be able to pay it back. My uncle is going to talk to his law partner about taking the case, but most importantly, I was able to call Kyle, and since he was an adult when Mama died, he actually has a copy of the will somewhere that he says he'll find and send to us. But he knew how much was in the account and where it came from. According to Kyle, there was a $300,000 life insurance policy from when Pop Pop, my maternal grandfather, died, and Mama saved it for us to use for college. He's not sure how it was structured exactly, except he's pissed because his college didn't cost very much, and what wasn't used was supposed to be distributed when we all graduated or turned 25, whichever happened first. So they stole not only from me, but from him too. I knew my sister's school was expensive. It's a private college, but I guess I assumed she was using loans or a scholarship or something. I never really thought about how they were affording her college. I just focused on doing well and getting as many dual enrollment credits as my school would allow, so I wouldn't have to spend as much time or money when I graduated and went to college. When he told me, I was in tears because $100K would more than cover my bachelor's degree and probably my master's degree too. What I want to do, meteorology, requires a master's or even a doctorate if you want to do any of the really interesting stuff. My parents were mad at me when I went home last night, like I had caused the fight. So I just went to bed, then went to work this morning, and I'm now just sort of drained like I got hit by a truck. My best friend says I didn't do anything wrong and just sort of got sucked into everyone else's drama and scheming, which seems pretty accurate. Even more stupid is that my grandparents told me that because they knew I had a decent amount from Mama, they only saved my aunt's kids' college funds, so they feel bad too. And Grandpa's birthday dinner got ruined. I got him some cheesecake from my work, and I'm going to take it over to him when they get back from church tonight. Either way, I got into my first choice college and am going to go, even if I have to sell blood or take out loans. So I've got that going for me, which is nice. I'm trying really hard not to let this affect me too much because I still have final exams coming up, and even though my grades are good, I don't want to let this screw up anything else since some of my scholarships are dependent on my grades. My brother suggested in the meanwhile that I can file paperwork for my FAFSA, Google says free application for federal student aid, to not have my parents' income counted, just my own, so I might be able to qualify for more aid. So I'm going to talk to my guidance counselor tomorrow about that. So there was a few comments that OP responded to, and some of the comments were downvoted, but there was a comment that said, "You're the arsehole" to OP. And OP replied to it basically saying, "You're right, I had a good life, but it wasn't because of my parents. They've always been clear that I was an accident, a whoopsie. And when I wasn't musical like my dad and brother or artistic like my mum and sister, they basically had no use for me. So Mama, Pop Pop, Grandma and Grandpa took care of me most of the time. My grandparents are also the reason that we had food and electricity and the rent was paid because my parents are an artist and musician and didn't make enough money and wouldn't listen to their parents and get real jobs to take care of us. I'm a math and science nerd, something all of my grandparents always encouraged. If I was spoiled, it was only by their attention. They didn't believe in a lot of presents. If they weren't giving them to all of us, we didn't get them. And we always got practical stuff like clothes and shoes for Christmas and birthdays. Since I didn't want music or art lessons, my parents never paid for anything. So my grandparents paid for my science team trips and let me buy my grandma's old car so I could get a job and pay her back. If I'm spoiled, it's only because my grandma and grandpa tell me how proud of me they are, and that they are the only ones who do it. I'm probably a brat because I'm resentful that so many adults I know, my grandparents' friends and my friends' parents, refer to me as every parent's dream child, and my own parents don't care. There isn't a relationship there to worry about. I am too different from them, and even when I try to appreciate the things that matter to them, they don't value any of the things I'm interested in. And this feels like the last nail in the coffin. My grandparents and uncle were honest last night when they told me that suing and putting a lien against the house wasn't about getting the money for college, but preventing my parents from losing the house that Momo left them, so they wouldn't wind up homeless or with my grandparents having to help them anymore. Though, who knows? Maybe once I'm out, my grandparents will stop. But my dad has always held the fact that they helped my uncle with law school, but wouldn't finance his music dreams against them. So maybe that's part of the guilt. It sounds like you have good kids. I hope they're a lot kinder and more compassionate than you are, or than you seem to be from your comment. I thought I was done crying today, but guess what? You proved me wrong. Hope you feel good about that. So another nasty comment comes into OP, and OP responds saying, I took every dual enrollment course I possibly could through my high school. I'm graduating with the equivalent of an associate's degree worth of credits, but only the cost of the textbooks I had to buy. The state and the school district covered the rest. That is why my degree is only going to take 5 semesters instead of 8. And only that because some courses have to be taken consecutively, not concurrently. Why is everyone okay with my sister getting an art degree? No hate to art, but seriously, and I get told to downgrade my dream. I've also had a job since the day I turned 16. I've never missed a shift and have saved every penny I could. I'm in a serious case of I did everything right and still got screwed. I know I can manage college, it'd be a lot easier with any sort of familial support, or especially the money from Momo, but I'll be able to swing it regardless. But they dodged the issue when I asked them the last few months to then drop this bombshell less than a month before graduation. It's really crappy. Someone suggests to OP that suing proves you'll know better and that you value money over family. OP says, my parents used to literally call me their favorite accident, but not in a friendly way. They also left me with my grandparents 70% of the time. My grandparents and uncle are suggesting suing and the lien, but not expecting money from it. But if they have the lien, then my parents probably won't be able to get a loan against the house. And if they don't have a loan, they can't wind up homeless. I love my parents, but I don't like them right now. I don't really know them. They were rarely around and never interested when they were. A couple of people have suggested my sister is the golden child, and I'd say that's accurate. What I want doesn't matter now. Some of that money was supposed to be for my brother, and now he's angry. I feel like all I really did was sit there, got told things by my parents that made everyone mad and made me feel unloved and uncared for. Ask a question here, call my brother, and now it's like it's out of my hands. Now I'm just planning not to have any money. Even if we sued and won, they have nothing, unless there is something left in the account and whatever settles. I'm waiting on more info and will update as things happen. I put my graduation reminder on the fridge, but I'm not going to actively remind my parents. We'll see if they bother to show up. My grandparents, uncle and aunt, his wife, already planned to take me out for dinner after, so at least somebody cares. Everyone on here has been great though, and very validating of my feelings, which is nice. Even if they don't agree with suing, they're mostly like, yeah, this sucks and was unfair. There's a right to be hurt and upset. So someone who was more on OP's side replied, and OP said to them, thank you for being kind about this. It's my dad's family helping, not mum's. But all my grandparents are really close friends. They used to say they had to be friends. No one else would understand dealing with my parents. So I trust them to know what Momo would have wanted. Grandma says that she believes Momo left Aunt Teresa in charge because she didn't want to put any more stress on the relationship between my parents and dad's family. And it might have been better if they had just taken that risk. My parents, dad especially, would have lost their minds if grandma and grandpa had been in charge because dad is still angry that they paid for law school for my uncle, but wouldn't pay for him to study music. Which is funny because now they're paying for my sister to go to art school instead of me going to college to study science. And don't seem to see the problem. You're right about having to be the squeaky wheel. Except my parents have always been sort of deaf about me, so my grandparents had to step in. I was an accident. They had my older siblings and planned to be done and then got pregnant with me. When it turned out I wasn't like any of them, they sort of left me with my grandparents a lot. My brother was raised to be a junior version of our dad, and they always call Kelsey Mum's mini-me. They were really proud when Carl had any sort of band performance or school play, or Kelsey was in an art show. But my science and math stuff they didn't care about. Kyle is sort of laid back and he left for college when I was 11. I don't remember living with him. And Kelsey is definitely the star of the family. And then there is me. People are sometimes surprised to find out my parents have a second daughter/third child. Momo used to tell me how dogs can't see in colour, so they can't really appreciate a rainbow, and that my achievements and interests were just something my parents couldn't appreciate. All this is making me miss her more. My grandma is awesome, but Mama was the one I spent most of the time with when I was little. And maybe it's stupid, but thinking about this and the fact that the money only existed because she and Pop Pop died is making me angry and sad. I'm going to graduate next month, and I don't think my parents even care. I know my grandparents do, but the fact that only half of them will be there is getting to me today. Then someone said, what are your planned undergrad or grad degrees? Opie says meteorology and atmospheric science. Dream job would be to work for NOAA, NOAA, or NWS, doing atmospheric research, specifically on polar destabilization or coastal impacts from changing storm patterns. Holy moly. But OP comes in with another update and says it's a moot point now. My brother found out that they were also using his leftover share of the college money, which says he would have received when we all graduated or turned 25. He's going to pursue it whether I want to or not. It was never my idea to sue or do the Lien. My uncle and grandparents suggested it, and I was asking for advice over whether or not it'd be an arsehole move. Even then, they made it clear suing wouldn't be about getting the money from me. It was about preventing my parents from mortgaging the house Mama left them and then losing it when they couldn't make payments. My uncle says his partner is willing to look into it, and Kyle has a good career and is the sort of person willing to sink money into it just to get even. Besides, on here I've literally had no control and talked to no one. Even when I talked to Kyle and he told me what he knew, that was it. Then he called our grandparents and uncle, and my uncle was texting me updates as he got more info. I haven't even yelled at my parents about it yet. When I got home after Grandpa's birthday party, they were already asleep. And besides them asking me to take the dog out before I went to work and texting me to bring home milk, they haven't spoken to me since the party. Even at the party, they were yelling at Grandma and Grandpa and my uncle and comforting Kelsey. I don't think they said anything to me at all. They announced Kelsey's JARE program. Top one that came up with that one says Jewelry Artist in Residence program. Not sure if it is or not. Then that they were funding it with Mormore's money. Then I argued with my grandparents and uncle. But now that I think of it, they didn't say a single word to me. Holy cow, that's going to put me in therapy for sure. My best friend knows, my brother knows, my dad's side knows, and my guidance counselor knows, but that's it. I'm not letting out other than here because I don't need the drama, and God forbid someone lets my parents know I'm upset or made them look bad. I'd never hear the end of it. Opie comes back in and says, funny thing is, except for asking me to take the dog out and texting me to bring home milk, I haven't seen or spoken to them since the party. I came home, they were asleep. They hollered for me to take the dog out before I left for work. Went to my grandparents, came home, no sign of them, which means they were out with friends probably. Wash, rinse, repeat except with school, and work instead of just work and my grandparents yesterday and today. I'm seriously considering keeping a diary of what they say to me, when, in case it ever becomes relevant. Someone else said that my brother and I were probably their retirement plan. But if that's true, maybe when they ask for something I can whip it out and be like, remember when these were the only things you said to me for the whole month before I graduated high school? No? Well, that's why I'm not helping you. I feel like an unwanted roommate. And I think we should get the obvious out of the way. Being an artist, being a musician is absolutely a real job. Wonderful jobs, in fact, and bring a lot of joy to people. So, and I'm guessing, that comment, the comment that we saw there was coming mainly from frustration. 17 years old and dealing with all that shit going on. Holy moly. There's a lot of thoughts, feelings, and emotions in that one post, and realizing where, I don't know if this feels bad, this feels kind of bad saying it, where you actually stand in this family unit. I mean, in this case, it sounded like the parents weren't earning enough money to keep themselves going, because it says like the grandparents were having to pay for food, electricity, etc., etc. And again, as always, not making any excuses for any of the bad behaviors that go on in this story, but I was certainly side-eyeing the grandparents in this. Whilst, of course, they cared for OP and done all sorts of good stuff there. But when it got to the point of like the grandparents basically treating their son the way OP is being treated now, because they helped the uncle with law school but refused to help him with like music or his artistic dreams, just sounds incredibly messy and sad. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, your support, your time always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being involved, and hopefully I'm going to see you in the next one. Take care and much love.